All right. Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? Just want to make sure that we get some people in the room before we get started. But essentially, what I'm going to make for you today is a Thai beef and basil stir fry, but really salad. So let's get started kind of just with what our ingredients are. We're going to use some kind of crunchy vegetable. So I'm working with celery, carrot, and cabbage. That's kind of the base of our salad. But the most important part are herbs. I like using mint as well. I didn't have it today. I'm using cilantro and basil. And then obviously we're using ground beef. You can definitely use ground cauliflower as a substitute, meaning like cauliflower rice, and then definitely turkey, chicken, any of those are great substitutes as well. And the first thing that's going to go into our pan is going to be a shallot, garlic, and chili mixture. So I'm going to thinly slice those and then finally get into the sauce making, the kind of dressing making aspect. And then we'll work our way backwards and cook our way through. All right, first things first, quick little knife skills. Make sure that you're choked up on your knife and that you're using a nice claw grip to protect your fingers as you go to thinly slice this shallot into nice rounds. We're gonna leave it as rounds. I'm doing this a little bit dangerously because it is on a rolling edge. Sometimes I advise to you all that you do this. Take a little bit off the bottom so that you have a flat edge and then it won't roll around on you as much. So again, we're making a Thai-inspired dish today. There's lots of substitution opportunities, but you want to include some kind of allium. In this case, we're using shallot. Red onion, white onion will also do. We do want garlic thinly sliced. If for some reason you can't get your hands on garlic or chili, maybe consider using that chili garlic paste, which sometimes has like a rooster on the cover of it, or rather on the front label. But fresh garlic is best, fresh chili is best. So once we get that all thinly sliced, now we're on to our chilies. It's a good idea to wear gloves if you're a little bit sensitive, if you're going to be prone to then touching your face later, because you may end up touching these hot seeds. All right, so this is the part that gets stir-fried with our meat, okay? So it's a good idea to get these pieces nice and thinly sliced first, and then we're going to set them aside in a little bowl like so. This is referred to as our mise en place. So we're doing the prep work in advance because when it's time to cook, guys, this is gonna go so fast. Like I'm talking 5-minute cook time. So if you don't have everything prepped in advance, you are gonna be scrambling and maybe over here cutting while something's burning in the pan, and we try to avoid those things. Okay, so here's one part, it gets stir-fried with the meat. So we're gonna set those two aside. Next up, we want to have our sauce ready to go. So we're going to use a combination of limes. I'm going to go ahead and juice those. I need, a container. Woo. I thought I set myself up for success, but sometimes I fail, guys. All right, so put this in cut side down. If you're not familiar with using a juicer, that's the best way to make sure that you invert the lime and you get maximum juice out of it versus squeezing lime juice up into your face. That's no fun. So don't do this. Do this. Put it in cut side down. All right, we want to use approximately equal parts lime juice and fish sauce. Now, I really don't care if you think that you don't like fish sauce. Sorry, this is really important in this recipe. What it's doing is it's adding salt, but more importantly, it's adding glutamates and inosinate, which is basically a fancy word for free amino acids that register on our tongue as savory, as umami. So if you don't use fish sauce and you substitute salt instead, you're gonna be a little bit disappointed in the overall flavor of the dish because it will just be lacking that savory quality. Other options, soy sauce, possibly like liquid aminos, but fish sauce is really gonna be the best. So that's what I'm about to pour into here, approximately equal parts fish sauce and lime juice. So we want this to be sour and we want this to be salty. And then last but not least, we really want this to be sweet. You can use sugar, you can use any other sweetening substitute. I don't recommend fake sugars here, but honey is a fabulous addition. So we want to be pretty generous because this is meant to be equally sweet and sour and umami. So it's all about that balance. And then we're gonna get a little bit of heat, remember, from our spicy chili that we cut up. So we're really hitting all the different flavor profiles in this Thai beef and basil stir fry, really salad. This is truly everything I want in both a stir fry and a salad. So we'll let this kind of sit, and then over time that honey will continue to dissolve. Now over to our herbs. We got some basil leaves that we want to prep. I don't like to chop these. So in a lot of stir fries, whole leaves of basil go in, and we're going to put half of them in during the cook process, and then the other half we're going to stir into the salad. So the leaves of basil are effectively like our baby lettuce leaves in this salad as well. So there's no reason to chop because it's more likely to go brown, kind of turn that black color on you, which is less than attractive. So instead we'll leave these whole, and we'll just give a rough chop to the cilantro. If I was working with mint, I would leave the mint leaves whole. I would not give them a chop. I find that mint and basil are the most likely to bruise on me, to turn dark brown, kind of black, nasty looking. All right, so our basil is good to go. We got our cilantro. Now, I don't bother removing these kind of tender stems. I find that the stems of cilantro have so much flavor in them that there's no reason to modify or change. So here we are, just quick little rough chop, working my way backwards. I'm not going to go over and over this. Again, as I mentioned before, the leaves of my herbs are basically like the lettuce leaves in the salad. There is no lettuce in this salad. Again, I'm kind of giving you mixed messages. We're making a stir fry, but it's also eats like a salad. All right, so we have our sauce made, our herbs prepped. The last little bit is a knife skills lesson in how to chop up nice crunchy vegetables here. So what we're working with, red cabbage, we want to thinly slice. You could certainly do that on a mandolin, but if you have good knife skills or you just like to practice, this is a great opportunity for cutting as thin as possible. Notice again how I'm protecting my fingers. Do you guys see how this keeps touching my finger? I know exactly where I am in space, but I don't have my fingers out like this where I could cut them off, okay? So really important to practice safety, but more than anything, kind of good hand positioning in the kitchen. As I get lower on this, I'm gonna hit that core of the cabbage. That's not so yummy, especially when it's not cooked. So I'm gonna take a little bit of that off. See, I'm making this angled cut, so that then this will lay nice and flat. And now I can continue to shave this cabbage down. If you were working with more cabbage, don't just cut the whole half, because then you're gonna have to go back over it and cut it into reasonable lengths that you would wanna put in your mouth. We don't want 5-inch lengths of cabbage. All right, so we got our cabbage prepped. Next up will be celery, and last but not least will be our carrot. All of this vegetable can mix together right now. All right. If you did not want to use cabbage, you could do other crunchy vegetables. I would do blanched green beans or sugar snap peas. But this is not really a place for your like butter lettuces and other tender herbs, because we're going to put the hot beef directly on top of all these vegetables. So if we chose really tender vegetables, they would get over wilted. So that's why I prefer like something like sugar snap peas, even just snow peas. I like very lightly blanched green beans. I love celery in this application, and I absolutely love cabbage and carrots. So those to me are kind of musts, but you do you, kind of according or kind of customizing to your preferences. But make sure that these are crunchy vegetables, things with high water content, high moisture content in them. All right, with the carrot, I'm going to cut this into a length that is more manageable, and I'm going to julienne this. This has kind of been a theme for me this lockdown, guys. I think I've made recipes with carrot and cabbage 5-10 times for you. I don't know. So I hope that that's not annoying anyone. I hope we don't have any cabbage and carrot haters. But the reason I'm doing this is that these are vegetables that last for a really long time in your fridge. So you don't need to go to the grocery store as often, which I think is something that we're all pretty conscious of right now. So if you don't already love them, I hope you learn to love them. Carrots and cabbage to me are like the perfect lockdown food. All right, I stacked those thin cut planks And then I'm now going over the planks to get this nice kind of julienne cut on my carrot, which basically looks like matchsticks. So this goes into the bowl. We're basically just making a nice, like the reason these knife cuts matter is that we're gonna eat the salad basically raw. All we're gonna do is pour the hot stir-fried beef and basil directly over it. So it's not gonna be enough heat to really tenderize this. It's only gonna be enough to lightly wilt it down. So if we don't do a good job now with our knife skills, we're really gonna be hurting later. So again, if you're just joining, you wanna make sure that you are choosing some crunchy vegetables, herbs, and then your choice of ground meat or cauliflower rice. So you can make this Thai style stir fry using ground turkey, chicken, beef is what I'm using today, or riced cauliflower. And then you serve it while hot directly over this sweet and sour and umami salad. All right, carrots go in. We are good to go. It is time to preheat our pan. I'm using an induction burner, so it's gonna be a little bit noisy. Sorry about that, guys. All right, we're gonna crank this all the way up. Get a nice, heavy, and low-sided skillet. This is what I mean, something that has one long handle, lower sides, which is gonna allow for lots of evaporation of moisture, because what we're trying to do is just cook this meat and get a little bit of browning on it. We do not wanna slow cook it for a long time. Ground beef tends to kind of get tough the longer you go. And remember all of this beautiful shallot and garlic and spicy chili that we cut up earlier. So these are gonna cook together. I need to find some neutral oil. I'm using avocado today. Canola oil is a great option. Peanut oil is a great option. Anything that has a high smoke point and neutral flavor is great here. I wouldn't go with something like olive oil. Talking while I wait for this pan to heat up. Oh, last but not least, my God, guys, almost forgot my favorite. You ready for this? It's like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. At Suyoka's, they have the longest scallions I've ever seen in my whole life. We're also gonna include scallions into our crunchy veg mixture as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and break that down. If you ever are dealing with something that's so crazy long like this, break it into a couple lengths before you go over it so that each knife cut is more worth your time, meaning you get multiple cuts with one swipe of the knife. Again, we're just about efficiency in the kitchen, and you'll notice one of the biggest differences really between, say, professional chefs and total amateur home cooks is how quickly we can get through this prep, which is a lot about just working smarter and not harder in the kitchen, and certainly having good knife skills. All right, this pan is getting hot. Not ripping hot. I want it like ripping hot, you know, just like. So the order in which I'm gonna do this, we're gonna have everything lined up. Oil's gonna go in first. Then we're going to do our onion mixture and then our beef and a little pinch of salt. I know that we have salt coming in the form of that fish sauce mixture, that dressing that we made, but we still wanna include a little bit in this recipe. So that the meat gets some salinity into it while it's cooking, which is a really good idea. We like to cook our food with salt so that it doesn't have salt just sitting on the surface. It actually gives it time to begin to penetrate into the interior so that it tastes more delicious and evenly seasoned all the way through. Okay, pan's hot, good little glug of oil. Basically, think about writing your initials in the pan. See how that's smoking? This is good. Okay, this is gonna splatter back at me, stand back. And get this meat in. And then as I mentioned before, salt, always salt. Salt our food as we cook it. Hey. All right. So I like to get this stirred once just to coat all the salt, move things around in the pan. Oh, hey, I left the stem. Not a terrible mistake, but hey, maybe not the best for food styling later. So get this stirred once to move the salt around to coat it evenly. And then guys, try to resist the urge to constantly stir. I know that that seems kind of counterintuitive, right? So we talk about stir frying. Well, hey, the first thing in there is stir. But stirring is not your job here if you're trying to get browning on your pan. Every time you stir your pan, you're effectively cooling it. already, see how this pan has kind of started to slow down its cooking? It's because we added so much mass of food in here that it actually then robbed the pan of its heat. So we're trying to let it build back up, get more heat so that there's a potential for some browning going on. Okay, as I mentioned before, I want to get these scallions in with the rest of my veg. So here's our salad while we're waiting for our meat to cook. This is our crunchy vegetables. In our case today, we're using celery and carrots, red cabbage, and then I got the scallion going. I'm gonna leave half of this basil for stir frying in the final moments with the beef, but the other half of this goes in. And I'm going to go ahead and add all of my cilantro here. And we're gonna add about half of this sauce. The sauce that we made is meant to be equally sweet, we used honey, equally umami and salty, because we use fish sauce, and equally sour, we use lime juice. If it's not all of those things, then you're gonna be kind of missing something in flavor. One way to taste this is on what you're gonna eat it, okay? So dip a carrot in. If it doesn't taste all of those things, adjust it by adding more honey, adding more fish sauce, etc. Okay, this is beginning to brown onto the bottom. I need a tougher spatula so that I can really show you that. This is looking good, guys. Okay, we're getting some browning, but we also still have raw meat in there, which is a good thing, right? That means that we can leave it in longer and build up more browning. All right, letting that hang out. Again, try not to disturb everything consistently. The more you stir, the more you're cooling your pan. Okay, in the meantime, I'm gonna return to our salad and we're going to dress it with about half of this. I thought it tasted great. It's got all of those flavors, so meaning it's balanced between sweet and sour and umami. So we're gonna go ahead and pour about half of this over. Get our salad tossed together with some tongs. And then we're gonna go back and check on our beef. I'm gonna give the beef one more stir because there's still some raw meat parts, but I'm just trying to get this barely cooked. Once it is just cooked through, we're gonna stir in the last half of that sauce. So all of these recipes that I've been trying to make for you all are things that I think are easy to execute when you are on lockdown. And my definition of that is things like using a lot of produce, things that last a while in your fridge. I do acknowledge herbs don't, okay? So it's not that you can't make this without a glut of herbs, but if you can get your hands on it, absolutely do. So I'm using vegetables that last a long time. I've done a lot of things with things like cauliflower and cabbage and squashes and beets. And then everything I try to offer substitutions. So for example, today, instead of beef, you can use cauliflower rice. You can use turkey or ground chicken. And then you can use other crunchy vegetables, not just the ones that I listed. And then we talked about how to substitute things like fish sauce. If you don't have it, use soy sauce. Use other liquid aminos. If you don't have honey, use sugar. And finally, if you don't have citrus juice, wow, that steam's really just going for me. If you don't have citrus juice, you could use rice wine vinegar, apple cider vinegar, or something like that. All right, this is looking good. Do you guys see the browning in that skillet? Sorry, induction burners beep at you if you lift up the skillet, so it's not very happy with me for doing that. Okay, this is looking fire. Okay, as I mentioned, the last thing we're gonna do while it's in the pan is flavor this meat with some of the basil. We had reserved half of our basil leaves, throw them in nice and whole, and the fish sauce itself. This is almost like we're allowing these flavors to really cook into it. It's gonna be brief, about 20 seconds once I put this in, but that's going to effectively season it all the way through so that the fish sauce isn't only on the salad, that fish sauce dressing, it's also on the meat. All right, guys, I wish you could smell this. It smells amazing. Okay, so we got this wilted down. As soon as I see the basil leaves wilt, they're gonna go directly on top of this salad. And then it's time to eat. You could certainly serve all of this over rice. We're just skipping that today because I figured most of you know how to make rice. If you don't, let me know. And I will direct you to, actually, in the link in my Instagram profile, I have my class available right now. It's a 14 episode series of how to cook. Basically, culinary school for home cooks. And one of the episodes is all about grain cookery, and we include basic rice and we include rice pilaf. So if you need to learn that technique, let me know. All right, this is ready to pour directly over. So this is going to slightly wilt down our salad greens and kind of meld all of these beautiful flavors. All right, that was an arm workout, guys. Turn this off, and then we'll just give this a nice gentle stir to combine. All right, so this actually packs pretty well as a lunch day after, so I do encourage making a good amount of this and then eating it the next day. It's obviously going to change. The vegetables are going to wilt down more and more, but I still find that it's equally delicious that way. All right, look at how gorgeous. So guys, let me know if you have any questions. I am more than happy to customize some of the recipes that we do next week based on your requests. What I'm trying to do here is make home cooking just more accessible, more fun, and help teach you to kind of think through how you can substitute and cook on the fly and incorporate a lot of different techniques and a lot of different cuisines and flavors to make cooking at home just as exciting as going out. There's no reason that it can't be. All right, thanks again for joining. If you missed this earlier, I'm going to be posting the recipe for this Thai beef and basil stir fry kind of salad situation over on my website, which is celestible.com. Thank you guys.